move to Niamey in Niger. We're going to hear from Boubacar Akali, who is a geographer at the University of Niamey, and she is going to give us her insights on the grilled meat in Niamey. So Awa, you have the floor, you have 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me properly? Okay, thank you very much. Hello to one and all. I'm going to be talking about men and women in the industry in the meat industry. And before we go into the detail of the subject, I'd like to talk about Niger, a Western African country. We've had a lot of structural change that has hardly impacted the purchasing power of people. Jobs the interpreter apologized, but we cannot hear the speaker. The sound is very, very poor. We've raised a free question. How has urbanization changed food habits? How has it changed the supply of food in Niamey, and what is the role of women in all of that? As a methodology, the interpreter apologizes, the sound is really too poor, the quality is not good enough to understand and make out what the speaker is saying. Right, so the demography is very interesting dynamics. I really do apologize, but the sound quality is too wide. It simply cannot make out what the speaker is saying. Okay, sorry, this is Florent, just jumping in. Could you speak maybe a bit closer to your microphone? It would probably help the interpreters. And I also turned your webcam off to try and help interpreters with a better sound. Can you hear me properly now? It's a bit better. It's a bit better. So I was saying it was an area of 30,000 acres with a lot of pendular migration, polycentrism, and a concentration of businesses and administrations in the center of the city. The cost of transport, as well as the continuous work days in public services and other services, has changed the lifestyles of urban dwellers and has increased the number of meals that are taken out of people's home. Butchers in Niger are overwhelmingly men. They have a specific know-how that is handed down from one generation to the next. At the moment, we don't have any statistics to explain the high demand for meat, but we do have some statistics that point to the fact that meat consumption has increased over the last few years. Between 2010 and 2014, it has increased quite significantly. And this increase in meat consumption is mainly down to the fact that the middle class has grown. 27.1% of households in Niamey are poor, 10% are suffer from extreme poverty and don't have access to quality food. And that remains an obstacle for the empowerment of women in Niger, generally speaking, and in Niamey in particular. Even though butchers are overwhelmingly men, women can also take part in the industry. Measures to empower women have helped them break into the industry. And they work a lot on transforming and processing meat. The butcher's trade is one that is passed down from father to son, as well as the know-how. So what do butchers do? Well, generally they are men, and they carve up meat so that the meat can then be processed. And the job of a butcher is often looked down upon by society. It is not an enviable position to hold, in spite of the fact that it's a job that requires a lot of knowledge and a lot of know-how. and the butchers are often ostracized and considered as slaves. Often they even live in different areas of the city together. And to look at the history of the sale of meat in Niamey, the interpreter apologizes. The sound quality is really too poor. The first butchers arrived in Niamey in the 1930s. So the first butchers came from Nigeria. Who arrived in Niamey, and up until 1960, 69, 20% of butchers and sorry, I just cannot make out the end of the sentence. So what about gastronomy? You have brochettes, skewers, and also dried meat, grilled poultry. You also have the tongue, the gizzards, the liver, the neck, the rump, the offal that can be processed, as well as the collagen that the women process to feed mainly the children and the local community. So what about women in the traditional industry of butchers? Previously, it used to be an industry that was very much closed to the outside world. It is very, very slowly opening up, and it is opening up slightly to women, socially and culturally. Women butchers cannot actually butcher an animal or carcass. Butchers who are insiders, so to speak, have more privileges, and women are more dependent. They don't have the ability to, their parents often help them. And women, because of social and religious reasons, are forced more often than not to stay at home. From an ethnic point of view, the sale of meat is dominated by the Hausa ethnic. Other people in Niamey have learned how to become butchers. Again, the interpreter apologized, but the sound is really too poor. Simply cannot hear the speaker properly. Women butchers often sell meat to poor people because their cheap is meater, and that allows them to have some economic independence. With urbanization, this business of selling meat has been possible for women. They used to be very dependent of their husbands. It is still the case today, but a little less so. The business has changed over the years, and a lot of women have started their own business and have started processing and selling meat, especially migrant women. And it's a business that has turned out to be quite lucrative. And women from villages go to sell the meat in cities where no one knows who they are. So I'm going to try and wrap up. With urbanization, women are increasingly taking part in transforming and selling skewers and grilled poultry. This has been made possible by the fact that there is more electricity on the streets of Niamey. Women sell processed food and skewers. To meet an increasing demand. So to conclude, the increase in meat consumption in Niamey is a good thing for women because they have entered an industry that is going to expand in years to come. Increasingly, women are taking part in the business of selling meat in city, sprawling, and women are slowly but surely empowering themselves through a business that has no prestige, but that nonetheless allows them to become independent. There's still a lot of work to be done to make sure that everybody considers that women can process and sell meat, but it is a process that is definitely underway at the moment. Women don't sell the more noble cuts of meat. So that's it for my presentation. I think I've used up all of my speaking time. Thank you very much.